We finally have new Godfall gameplay coming from the PS5 reveal event. While it was very short, we learned quite a bit of new info from the trailer. In this video, we will be focusing mostly on the combat and the weapons, since the gameplay showed us a ton of new abilities and attacks. If you want to keep up with the latest Godfall news, don't forget to sub. I will be covering everything we learn about Godfall in the coming months. So Godfall has 5 different weapon types in the game. These will include the Longsword, the Greatsword, the Hammer, Polearm, and Dual Blades. Each of these will have their pros and cons and will allow for many options and styles for people to choose from. Counterplay hasn't released very much official info about the weapon types, so everything that we'll be talking about today will be based solely from the gameplay they have revealed. So the info is from my best guess, so in times things may change or be completely different. So the first weapon on the list that we're going to dive into is the Longsword. Now there's a note here, there appears to be 2 sword types, the Longsword and the Greatsword. So we're going to assume the Longsword is one-handed and the Greatsword is 2. Now from the gameplay, the Longsword does do work to enemies. It has a pretty decent attack speed with quick strikes and hits. It has the ability to leap forward and attack, kind of like the warrior charge in WoW. The thing that caught my eye is that it has a lot of AoE type attacks. That would be something I thought the Greatsword was going to have. As you can see, there are attacks where the sword is thrown in the air and as you grab it is thrown down for an AoE damage attack. There's also another move shown here where the knight jumps into the air and slams down on a single target, but does put out some AoE damage or stun. And there is a more powerful version of that move that seems to exist as well, as you can see the knight decimating the enemies here. As a side note, this could be the Greatsword, but it's so fast it's hard to tell. But there is a difference with this from the previous one. In this attack, the sword and the armor are glowing red. To me, this indicates it's the Valor Plate's special ability. Whereas here, there is no glow but a blue attack, which I think is the weapon's special attack. Like I said, since there's no official word, it's hard to differentiate if it's the weapon or the Valor Plate abilities. Now, it was thought the Longsword was the only weapon to have the shield, but from the gameplay, we can see that the shield can be used with all the weapons, two-hand or not. The shield is created from the armor and comes out of the wrist when needed to be used. But the best part to me is that the shield looks to be a very offensive tool as well. It could be thrown cap style at your enemies and returned back to you. I must admit I will be doing this a ton. Throwing a shield is always so satisfying. We also see this move here where it appears that they throw a sword and then fly in with a shield to bash stun. The animation of this looks crazy cool. Also, it can create space for you in a bad situation as seen here as the shield knocks back the enemy a good distance. Next is the Greatsword. It appears to have the same kind of attacks as the Longsword, but it's slower but more powerful. It has a lot of AoE swinging attacks that take out many enemies. It has a slide charge attack as well like the Longsword, but it looks to take a bit more time to charge up and execute. We can also see a cool jump and overhead swing attack, and I believe it's the Greatsword since at the end he grabs the hilt with both hands. As mentioned, we do see a knight here with a Greatsword attack, then use a shield to block and then dodge. So it doesn't appear the weapons themselves can actually block, but as of right now, only the shield can. The hammer appears to be able to dish out massive damage. I'm going to assume this will be a really slow weapon, probably the slowest, but have the highest damage potential. With lots of overhead swings and slams, I would feel this weapon is going to be the hardest to master, especially with attacks like this one. The enemy literally exploded. This could be a weapon trait or from the Valor Plate, so I wouldn't assume it's a special ability. This one could be a special ability. We see the hammer glowing red and when slammed, releasing a powerful AoE blast. Again, we see the hammer with a nice shield combo here. The shield just seems to open up so many possibilities. Weapons that wouldn't have a quick knockback are now provided with that. It's adding an element to each weapon to make it not stuck in its role. The polearm is the distance weapon. I believe it will be slightly faster than the Greatsword, but less damage than the hammer. The polearm will provide nice AoE damage with its swinging, but the coolest thing about the polearm is the ability to throw it at enemies. I'm not sure how far you can actually throw it, as this is one example and it's a pretty close, but still, it's an awesome move. Now for my personal favorite weapon type, the Dual Blades. These have to be the fastest weapons in the game. They will deal out damage with very quick attacks and combos. The Dual Blades have some pretty cool looking moves like these tornado spinning attacks, but what makes the Dual Blades so cool is that there is the ability to throw a whip that pulls the enemies towards you and you can wreck their face, making that Mortal Kombat Scorpion dream come true. Now you might think they have to be very close to attack, but the Dual Blades can attack from a distance. There are attacks where the cord is connected to them and you can whip them around for some swinging attacks. If you play Dauntless, you'll recognize these attacks because they're virtually the same, which isn't a bad thing. The Dual Blades in Dauntless were really good. We also see some special abilities like this one where the knight is charging up and releases a stun and maybe some damage. I'm assuming it's for the Dual Blades since this move wasn't shown for any other weapon, but again, could be the armor. Not a weapon, but the trailer shows us some ultimate abilities as well. The first is the dash or teleport forward that leaves a gold outline of the knight, which is a really cool movement ability to dash around all the enemies in quick succession. Not sure if it's the Valor Plate's ability or not, but this next one has to be since the entire armor is glowing. It is the Spectral Blades ability. It creates a bunch of flying swords around the knight that deals damage as they move around him, and they appear to also be launched at enemies. I'm assuming assuming that each Valor plate has a specific ultimate tied to it, but with this being a looter slasher with abundant gear drops, maybe each set will have 2. There is a total of 12 Valor plates in the game, so the likelihood of multiple ults might seem like overkill. And that about sums up everything I could find from the trailers we have seen so far. All the weapons look extremely fun, but for me the dual blades is going to be the first choice. Counterplay has stated that combat mastery is very important, and so far the combat does look quite good. Yes, there are obvious issues with the stutter in the trailer and how the gray sword clips through the cape, but those should not be there in the final product. Drop a sub to the channel to keep up with the latest Godfall info, as well as I'll be covering it thoroughly as the info is released. Let's hope they pick some other music for the next trailer. Did anyone actually like it? Let me know down in the comments below, and until next time, peace.